cyberbullying, the first day or two that a celebrity story comes out about something they did wrong or wrongdoing, more times than not, is kind of justified for those first few days. They did something. You
feel like they deserve it.
They did something that was wrong.
Nail them to the cross.
Not to the cross. Just lock him in a room, you know. There's a country singer named Morgan Wallen. He has only one country song that I love. It's called 7 Summers. It's an amazing record. You guys will probably like it. He got canceled because he used the N-word in a video. He was like using it very loudly.
That's bold.
It's very bold. The first few days of something like that coming out, he deserves all of it. Anybody, the first few days, the quote-unquote cyberbullying, I think is generally justified. I can't think of a time where it's not. Again, it shouldn't be to the point where somebody feels like killing themselves, which I know that happens a lot.
It could easily go there.
It can.
It could easily go there.
But I get it, you know. I don't do it. I
you do not participate.
People's mental health is very important.
In a cyberbullying context, like, you got to take into account that the average person, when you're dealing with the rich and famous, average person chomping at the bit for that moment when they mess up and you see them fall and fail, and people love to pile on. They're like,
does that give people, like, the consumer, like, some sort of satisfaction?
It does.
What does that do for the consumer?
It makes them feel better about themselves. Yes. It's like putting someone else's down. You get to see, like, I knew they couldn't have it all. Like, they're rich, famous, but they're not happy, and they're doing this, and I knew they were fucked up. Like, and people pile on. So I agree. I think cyberbullying is almost inherent in cancel culture, because you need to shame them into feeling bad for their behavior, exactly. So ideally they change. But when you do it on a global scale, like, I can't imagine waking up, and it's like, imagine waking up and getting thousands of messages from people you've never met saying, like, you're horrible, you're terrible,
so sorry for all
I hope
William
you
Clintons.
Die. And for weeks, months.
Yeah. Cancel culture is cyberbullying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. They're interchangeable. That's the whole point of it.
And sometimes it's not even just the consumer. Like, perfect example, the most recent one is Michael B. Jordan with his rum line. You had Nicki Minaj, out of all people, jumping on like, that's offensive, you need to change that.
Is that the Juve thing? Was that what that was?
Nicki said that?
He tried to trademark.
Nicki Minaj
He tried to trademark Juve.
Shamed Michael B. Jordan and said it was offensive to name his rum line Juve.
I don't like it, but...
Like, yes, acknowledge the fact, because in his contract when he was trying to trademark the word, it said it doesn't mean anything in the foreign language. That's a lie. Of course it means something.
Of course. But and then the entire Caribbean diaspora takes offense to that. Because they're like, you're just kind of like not recognizing our history or our tradition.
But I feel like the way they came at him, it was unnecessary.
I understand why they're upset.
Of course.
I'm not saying it's completely justified.
Well, I think the thing that pissed me off was Nicki Minaj jumping in. Like, sis, be quiet.
Onika.
Sit down.
Oh, you're trying to say she got skeletons in that closet.
Like, if you want to talk about something that should be a little canceled sometimes, it's shorty. So I'm like, you sit down. Don't talk about things that are offensive.
I mean, on another note, I don't think that there's enough collective consciousness to, like, really be responsible enough to say, okay, here's what deems to be canceled and here's what, deserves a second chance. I don't think there's enough, like, collective consciousness around that. Like, people, everything is, like, subjective. It's like, well, I believe this, I believe that. My experience is this, my experience is that. So I just don't know if I have the right say to say whether someone deserves to be canceled. I can't cancel what God got for you. Who the fuck am I?
I mean, it's a tough line to walk, though, because we criticize celebrities for not using their platform to make change that we want, but then when we do, we say, "Who are you? Shut up and dribble. Do this, that."
Like, so it's like the Minaj thing. It's like, well, she is speaking up for like a whole group of people
she's trying to do that.
Underrepresented. So it's like, how are we getting upset with her because she's doing that when we would be otherwise upset that these people don't have a voice?
But we've seen people come together to cancel maybe not an entire celebrity, but a brand.
I remember H&M for a minute had to apologize. I remember H&M.
I mean, they should keep
the monkey stuff.
Every brand during the riots
had to apologize,
whether they cared or not. Black Picture, I support
every
single
you
brand.
Still being H&M? No. Still being H&M? Like,
I don't. I mean, sorry.
I mean,
Who is somebody that tried to be canceled, you think, that didn't deserve to be canceled?
Doja Cat.
Okay.
I feel like, I don't know what the fuck she was doing in them chats. If she's half white and half black, I mean, who am I to say that she shouldn't be in white chats with her white friends. I don't know what they talk about in those chats.
Even if they're Nazis?
I wasn't there.
Even if they're not what?
Even if they're like Nazis?
Were you in the chat?
I wasn't in the chat, but
How do we know?
but one of them's a confirmed Nazi though. That's what I'm saying. But
One
maybe
of
she
them
didn't know
came
that.
out.
But
That's why.
That's a wild. It was
but
wild.
does Doja Cat being friends with the potential Nazi or talking to a Nazi in a group chat mean that she in agreement with what that person says or does? Does that mean that she represents that? Does it mean that she
proximity.
influences that?
It's not so much she represents it, but you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Because that's your friend. It's one of those, I don't do that personally, but you go do you. And I think that's something you shouldn't be okay with. Like, if I had a friend that just blatantly told me, like...
No, right. I 100% agree.
So it's one of those, but again, we don't know she was aware of it. So that's why she wasn't fully canceled.
Fucking there. I don't know what goes on like
They
behind
tried
that
it and
door.
it went nowhere.
And it worked because we all jamming to say so. To this day. I think the main difference between cultural appropriation and like appreciation is perfect example. Like say you go out for a Taco Tuesday, you go and enjoy in a Mexican restaurant. You have tacos, you enjoy the music, you enjoy the food. But if you walk in there with a sombrero and like every 5 minutes, like that is cultural appropriation. And I don't see how people don't realize that. Indian garb is not a costume. A hijab is not a costume. Yeah. Cultural appreciation is watching, you know, a movie from Bollywood or listening to the music or going to an Indian restaurant. Like you appreciate and enjoy what that culture offers, but you're not trying to claim it as your own.
Right. Maybe cultural appreciation is allowing the black woman to come into work with her hair braided.
Ooh.
And appropriation is being an Asian woman who can take her braids out because she has a job interview.
Oh, that's
because it won't be.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one.
Because it won't be accepted, right? It's like, you know, as a black woman, I can't really change my hair to go into work or be accepted in the eyes of a white person or whatever non-black person. But a non-black person could most definitely change their hair, could change their outfit, could change all of these things that they've copied from my culture to be accepted by people of their own culture. There's not a very thin line between appreciation and appropriation.
I saw that video. I think are you referencing a video? I saw that video. To me, it's like complete ignorance. But I don't know if I can consider that appropriation because it's her hair, it's braids. Do we own braids?
No, but why is it that she can...
It's ignorant. She's ignorant, for sure.
But it's one of those, you shame the black woman for braids, and she gets celebrated for braids. Like the Kardashians. They are my favorite example to go to. The Kim Kardashian boxer braids, that's not a thing.
No,
it's not a thing.
Ooh,
But
that was a rough one.
She will brand that.
People put on her, but it's really the brands that rename it. I don't put it on the Kardashians as much as
themselves. Okay, but
I do. They know their influence. They know their way.
And they definitely work with the brands.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they know when they do this thing, when they hire a black woman to come and do their hair, they're influencing a great fucking audience.
Yeah. And they know that's their audience to make their money from.
On the other side, it's
who the audience will then claim them to be the starter or the like, you know, the person who created this thing. And it's like, no, she actually didn't. And if you had more knowledge of the culture, you would know that this was appropriation.
What I think is like dictionary definition, cultural appropriation, is Miley Cyrus a few years ago, and they all do this to shut off the Disney princess, America's sweetheart image. They use hip hop to get the raunchiness.
It's the classic tool to look more sexual.
Yeah, they all done it.
I mean, it's all of a sudden, I'm this small white girl. Now I'm next.
Grinding on the rapper, all that.
So
she gets her mic well. Gets
with that
money.
23 with my J's on. I was like, what? Yeah. Wiley's wearing J's now?
Love Mike Rowe, hated that song. You know? And after she used and abused hip hop, talked down about it, she leaves and goes back to
country.
America's
She goes back to her roots.
That's cultural appropriation to me.
You redeem yourself. Yeah.
Twerking at the VMAs.
I feel like appreciation could have been
appreciation.
her, like, you know, making a country song with a rap artist and her still being her
true to herself.
Her fucking
like her father, the Little Nas X.
That with the Little Nas X is beautiful.
So
beautiful.
Good. So good.
I was like, we love Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was next. That was that was amazing. That really set off. Yeah, someone like someone else who has someone else writing their songs for them. Someone else someone like Kardashians. They probably have marketing teams, PR teams. They don't know about any of these things.
Have to latch on.
They're just like, this is how I make money.
Exactly.
This is how I stay relevant.
Appropriated to be successful.
I feel like the Kardashian mood board is just black women, and then when they show the shit that they've created, there's no.
But I have black daughters.
Oh my.
I have a black son.
Please
Okay, we start. I'm trying to keep it PG. Anyway.
R.I.P. Courtney.
Canceled. Question.
What are some other like large hits of cultural appropriation that happen live? Like
body structures now. Like
Ooh,
it's
that's a
celebrated
good
to
one.
have hips and ass and
the
full
shape
lips.
as it is. Yeah.
But there was a time that it
You
was
were shamed for having
looking
big
like
lips
a
and
monkey,
big ass.
being just
You go back to the
fat.
2000s. It was the skinny, emaciated.
Yo,
Flat
Eurocentric.
ass butts on magazines, like perfect ass.
Like this is the ideal body.
I'm like, what at? You look back now, I'm just like, who are these people? I'm like, you need to eat a sandwich. Like,
I still personally would consider that appropriation. I don't know what to call that.
yeah,
But I don't like it.
It's one of those. It's okay. I guess like it's unfair to say it's just women of color that have that kind of body, but it really is. Like it's like they're known.
If you ask me, the women on social
They're
media,
trying to imitate ants, not black women.
really, to me, it's the transgender community that kind of like the look from like the 80s and 90s, and I feel like they forefronted that, and people try to look like that. City girls, like the going to Miami, that's from
Back in the day.
That's from that, to me, if you ask me. That comes from that community, LGBTQ community.
And that's cultural appropriation. It is.
That's why I'm like,
You're
where the fuck
appropriating
did that
from the
come from?
LGBTQ community. Like, you want to talk about a culture that does not get props? Let's talk about it.
And then let's talk about where that culture even started from. I'm sorry, heavily influenced by black people.
Yeah, no,
A
for sure,
black
for
trans
sure.
woman and a Latin trans woman
Yeah.
really started
Period.
Stonewall. Like, if
Started what?
Stonewall.
What's that?
You never heard of Stonewall? Oh God, I'm not.
Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Michael Jackson.
oh, the three. Oof.
Michael hurts.
See, the thing with somebody like Eminem, who like his lyrics do not age well.
Really?
He's
Oh my
saying,
God.
Now you listen to
not age
Kim.
well.
He's got a whole song about murdering his wife, his ex-wife, and like
in his life and his mother.
And is that because we're more sensitive?
I think we're just more aware.
we're more aware. We're
Okay.
sensitive.
I
and
agree.
More aware than I say sensitive.
Because it's one of those, if we ignored it back then and it led to other things, like it bled into other things and it made people think they could behave in a certain way. So with our generation now, we're calling out everything we see. Like, you cannot get away with anything. But on the backside of that, it's one of those, we're also calling out things that maybe don't necessarily need to be called out.
Like, one example, America's Next Top Model, I feel like that show should be canceled. As I like rewatch that show now in 2021 with like my level of awareness.
What's one thing now? What is stand today from the show?
So the one episode in the show, she had each model basically like literally appropriate a culture. So a white woman was supposed to dress as a black woman, and they put her in like this big afro wig, and like she had door knockers, and then she had to like play the role of a black woman in the photo to like make it come across that it was like real. She had someone like appropriate Indian culture, Asian culture, you know, African culture. So it was just like, it's very offensive.
No, I agree. I think that's a good point you brought up, especially with that specifically like appropriating different cultures. And I think a big reason it wasn't as big back then was because those cultures weren't at the forefront of anything else at the time. Like, where else was a show about Indian culture at that time?
We had on like rose-colored glasses.
Exactly.
For sure. Like, we just let a lot of shit slide.
But and also it's like, I think with me what's hard to cancel about like art that didn't age well, perfect example, Gone with the Wind. I'm a Turner Classic movie kind of girl.
That's rough.
I love that movie, but any movie that glorifies the great old South and slavery should be canceled. But with that particular movie, I won't, because it made history. Hattie McDowell made history. She was the first black person to win an Oscar.
Cat Williams said something recently that I liked a lot, because comedians are probably the main ones who complain about people being sensitive. And I'm not saying they're all the way right or wrong. There's truth to what they're saying. But he said something. And he said, and I'm OD paraphrasing right now. He said something to the extent of comedians complaining about cancel culture and the generation being too sensitive. He said that's what's supposed to happen. If you're a comedian, you're talented, you're a writer. If you're a writer,
you shift the perspective.
Find your ways to maneuver in it.
Yeah.
He said, I've never offended people in my stand-ups. And you think about it, even though we think he's, well, not we here, but the masses think he's just crazy. You think about his stand-up, I can't think of a group, maybe individuals, but I can't think of a group of people he's offended. I'm like, he's right. He finds ways to maneuver to not offend communities, you know?
That's true.
So he said,
it's kind of impressive,
if you're talented, that's what his point. If you're talented, then it shouldn't be an issue for you. I'm like, I think Cat is right.